Hey there, guys. This is this month's classic recast episode. And, well, since saying the wrong thing seems to be in the news lately, especially if you're an Italian tour group, if you know what I mean, we thought we'd go back and revisit this episode where Ed and I talk about self censorship. Now, I always make the joke that, of course, Thailand has freedom of expression, just as long as you don't discuss anything on this official list here. But that's actually not too far from the truth, especially if you are not too psyched about police visits and jail time. So, an interesting and strangely evergreen discussion that Ed and I had back in episode 52 of season 5. Hope you enjoy. On this episode, we discuss the topic of self-censorship in Thailand.
So if you've ever written a tweet or a Facebook post, thought about it, and deleted it before posting, you'll understand it this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap, and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who came to Thailand in 2001 on a worldwide scavenger hunt to find the elusive frog that croaks when you rub a stick on its back, but I've yet to find one, and I'm still looking.
You're not looking very hard, dude. And I'm Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a one-year teaching contract 21 years ago. Fell in love with buying clothes and finding out I'm an XXL instead of just an L like I am back home. So I never left.
Please.
I'm a big dude. I'm a big dude. What can I say?
Yeah, you don't feel like a big dude until you got a shirt that says 7XL on it. That was an unusual brand, let me just say, but I'm just saying it.
I'm not comparing myself to you. I'm comparing myself to who I was back home. We want to say a quick thank you to one of our patrons, Chris Milisiak, who supports us at the show shoutout level. Stick around after we're done talking about self-censorship in Thailand to hear why Chris might be hired as the official Bangkok Podcast photographer.
Yeah, dude.
We want to give a big thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a whole bunch of cool stuff, including our ad-free regular show a day early, emails with behind-the-scenes photos of our interviews, access to our Discord server to chat with me, Greg, and other listeners, and various other goodies. But best of all, patrons like Chris also get an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we riff on current events and Bangkok topics. We just finished recording this week's bonus show, and we chatted about how COVID will soon be officially declared endemic, Greg's upcoming self-isolation before his trip home, discussions about Thai dowries, and an especially painful harpoon attack from an angry wife.
Yikes.
To learn how to become a patron, click the support button at the top of our website.
Right, and as always, if you have something to say or a show idea or a joke or just want to say hi, head to bangkokpodcast.com and click on the little microphone button on the bottom right to leave us a voicemail that we will play on the show, as long as it's nice. Hey, I wanted to start the show off real quick before we get into the main topic. I think we're all watching the situation in Ukraine, and one of our patrons and some listeners, I'm sure, are in Ukraine as well as some of our patrons and listeners who are in Russia. So I've been chatting with both of those, and it's a really terrible, sad, complex situation. But last week we did a show. We talked about how Thailand sort of had its first statement on the situation was pretty milquetoast and sort of like in between and didn't come down on one side or the other, and that led to the whole discussion of the show, which was Thailand's history of sort of choosing the middle path kind of thing. But we got a listener from our friend Maria, who lives in Moscow, and I thought it was interesting to read it. She said, "Thoughts on your last episode. As individuals, we were glad Thailand took a neutral position, as we hoped we could flee to there, but we failed to buy tickets in time, as well as possibly Ukrainians could, although most don't have access to this luxury right now. Thailand's neutrality might be a weak political decision, but it's beneficial for the lowest level of people involved. I'd like to spread the word as much as possible that A, clearly there's a war, but it may not be obvious from the outside, but local propaganda tries to cover this fact and even uses other words for it. And B, there are a lot of people in Russia who would never support these actions and who would never have voted for this government, but we can't really do anything to stop it. And C, we have friends and relatives in Ukraine, and many people do too. So, it was really interesting to get that from Maria, and it sort of just reinforces the fact that, Russian people are not the Russian government, and the sanctions and stuff hurt. Man, they hurt everyone in this.
For sure. I mean, obviously, you have to have the most sympathy for people who are having bombs dropped on their head, but that doesn't mean those are the only people you can have sympathy for. And I have sympathy for everyone affected by the conflict, including Russian people who have to bear the burden of all these weird sanctions and having their own lives uprooted. And having I just right before the show, I just happened to see something that Estonia has started blocking all Russian people from getting any visas to enter Estonia, just like banning Russians. Not that many Russians necessarily want to go to Estonia, but probably some do. Sympathy all around.
Yeah, it's a shit situation for everyone, but especially for people and our friends and our listeners who are in Ukraine or in Russia or in that part of the world and are feeling the effects or have people over there, friends and family. Man, I mean, we hope things get better. And Maria, thank you for writing in. It's great to hear from you and hear a real person talk about real issues, because
for sure,
we're over here being armchair
That's
opinionators
right.
and stuff like that.
And if you can get over here, we certainly will welcome you with open arms. So anyone who can get here, we will welcome you.
True dat. Yeah. And hey, inspired partly by that, on this episode, we are going to revisit a topic that we covered way back in season 2 of the show with the old co-host Evo, which is self-censorship. But, a lot has changed in the 6 years since that episode came out, not least my co-host. So we thought it was worth a revisit. Now, like I said, it was an idea that was partly sparked by the message I just read from Maria, which got me thinking about how different countries deal with this issue in different ways. Now, obviously, some places have it much worse than Thailand does, but still, if you live here, you do need to think about what you say publicly before you say it. As content creators, it's something that we need to think about all the time, so we thought we'd dive into it with some of our own thoughts on how we put the podcast together and deal with the constant knowledge that someone, somewhere, is probably listening, and not just a regular listener, but, a big brother type thing.
That's right. I kind of feel, when you had this idea for the show, I thought it was a good idea. I kind of feel it's almost that we have a duty to our listeners to let them know kind of what our policy is. So that's how I approach the show. I just feel like I want our listeners to know how in what ways we are limiting ourselves. Right. And to be honest, I was chatting with some of my friends back home about this, and the fact that I was even suggesting that there were certain things I couldn't talk about the show, for my American friends, I think it was a little bit shocking, because just Americans don't think that way. We just don't have to censor ourselves.
Right.
But to be honest, I don't feel like I do it too much. So I don't feel muzzled or anything like that. I don't know. How do you feel? I mean, I don't really feel muzzled, except in a few cases, which is the purpose of this show. So we want to make clear how we do limit ourselves. Although in general, I don't know, man. I feel pretty loose on the show. Like I don't feel like I'm muzzling myself too much. Like, do you?
No, I agree. And it's good to start with this and come right out. Like, it's not like every show we're like, we want to say this, but we can't,
That's right.
I think generally we can say pretty much what is on our minds, and it's not an issue. It's rarely a problem. But, we do have to consider things that, like, your friends in the States or my friends in Canada would never have to consider.
That's right.
When they're saying something publicly.
And also, I think we're also helped just by the topic of the podcast, because, we are a show about expat life in Thailand and also the life of tourists, especially repeat tourists. And while that does involve like political stuff sometimes and maybe sensitive stuff,
right,
90% of the time we're talking about how to have fun.
Yeah, if it was a podcast on politics, then of course we'd have a much bigger problem.
Normally we're talking about how not to get hit by a tuk-tuk and, how not to make how not to make an ass of yourself in front of Thai people. So just the subject matter that we have, it just lends itself to mostly being safe stuff. But there's a few. I don't know how you break it down, Greg. You and I decided to do this show, but we didn't really like make a list. I feel there's maybe 3 or 4 ways that I limit myself. So I don't know if you want me to start or you want me to just jump in.
Yeah, jump in with that. Yeah, let's see.
Okay, I'll jump in with just the obvious thing is we don't talk about the monarchy. So all of our listeners probably know this. This is something that is well known, that there are very strict laws in Thailand about any criticism of the monarchy. And those laws have been very broadly interpreted, which means, some people have even been punished for criticizing a dress that was designed by a member of the royal family. And so it's been pretty broadly interpreted. And so the best thing to do is just not talk about the monarchy. And that's just our general rule on the podcast. We don't talk about it. But I wanted to say this. I usually give this advice just to travelers in Thailand, also just generally not to talk about it, even if you're not worried about getting arrested. I just feel, I don't know, let me get your thoughts on this, Craig. I feel that just the monarchy is such a culturally important part of Thailand that I feel there's almost nothing a foreigner can say about it that Thai people would really care to hear. Maybe a Thai person might be really curious one day and ask, but I just think like it's one of those things, there's just kind of no reason to talk about it as a foreigner. That's just my take. So even not even talking about the podcast, like just I'm talking about in everyday life, even if you have a close Thai friend, or even a boyfriend or girlfriend or wife or husband, I just think it's, kind of not our business. Like that's just how I frame it. How do you think about it?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's not our business, but yeah, I agree with you. Just don't talk about it. If you're curious about it, read a book, read a website, whatever.
Yeah. So I don't say either positive or negative things about it. So obviously I don't say negative, but I don't say positive things about it. I just don't talk about it.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought that up because the original show we did, Evo and I did back in 2016, what sparked this idea back then was when King Rama IX passed away.
Right.
And we were going to do a show about why he was such an important figure in Thailand.
Right.
And we had written out the script and it was very reverential and it was not controversial at all. And it was very positive. But we were sort of like, maybe we should send this around to a few people. So I sent it around to a few friends who had been here for a long time. And the thing that tipped the balance was one of my buddies got back to me and he's like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with it, I don't think. But he goes, you know what? As foreigners, we don't need to have an opinion on everything.
That's right. Yeah. I think this is the perfect example. I just don't talk about it at all.
Yeah.
Now I want to put an asterisk to this that I don't agree with these laws. Of course, I believe in free speech as just like a human right, but the bottom line is, I also believe in being a good guest, and when you live in Rome, you do as the Romans do, and I'm living in Thailand, and the way Thai culture works and Thai law works is that it's just not a topic appropriate for foreigners, and so I just abide by that. Like it's
this is the whole central thesis of the show, right? I want to say this, but I'm not going to because I know that there's going to be repercussions.
Yeah, but
this is especially weird for me too because I'm Canadian. We have a queen. We have a monarchy in Canada, right? And we can say whatever you grow up saying whatever you want about it. So it's a little bit of an extra bit of an adjustment for someone from like me.
That's kind of the number one thing. So obviously we just don't talk about that on the show.
Sometimes we get suggestions from listeners who, why don't you do a show about this? And sometimes it bumps up a little too closely to that topic. And I was like, are you crazy? No, we're not doing that.
Yeah, that's right. For sure.
Yeah.
Now, I guess let's stick with the potentially political stuff for a minute. A related thing has to do with just criticism of the government or criticism of the military. And so this is not prohibited by Thai law, and we certainly do it. However, I have to admit and have to tell our listeners that my criticism is not as pointed as it would be if I were back home. So even though we do criticize, we tend to focus on things like the public relations of the Thai government and things like that. But we tend not to name the prime minister directly or name specific generals. And so I do feel like I am self-censoring a little bit. Whereas in the States, I will just name so-and-so is an idiot, and I just, you know what I mean? Yeah. So here, even though we do criticize the government, like I think we criticize the government a fair amount, we do, but it's not as I would say it's not as pointed or focused as it
Yeah,
would.
it's not as vindictive. We're not going to set up a site like, so and so sucks.com or something like that,
Right.
like we would back in the States. So you and I have had discussions before. I mean, you are a poli-sci guy and you're hugely into this, much more than I am. And in the past, you've suggested like, let's do a show on this, let's do a show on that. And I'm always like the one pushing for like, I don't know about that, man. I don't feel comfortable talking about that. Not that I disagree. Like, I would love to do that. I would love to get into these details and debates and stuff. But I just know that like the potential negatives outweigh the potential positives.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I probably would like to get a little bit more into politics than you would, just because it's kind of my field. Yeah. I think there is a safe way to do it, but you're right. It is just a risk. And what I've discovered over the years is the foreigners in Thailand are just generally ignored. That's the general thing. The Thai government, they don't really care what foreigners say or think in general.
Unless.
Right. But then there's just something that happens, So if, the scenario would be that one of our listeners of a Thai person who might have certain political opinions, they just get annoyed by something we say. They just get annoyed like, hey, wait, who are these guys? Okay, I know they've lived here a long time, but they don't have the right to say that. So all we have to do is piss off the wrong person, and then they make a few phone calls, or they file charges, or they talk to their friend who's in the military, and then it's like the Eye of Sauron. Like in general, like the Eye of Sauron is just not on foreigners, and we can kind of get away with stuff. But the bottom line, as soon as that eye swings over and focuses on us, if they want to, they can find something to say that we broke this law or did that law. So that's why I tend to keep my criticism of the Thai government general and amorphous. I just say like, I'm not afraid to say the Thai government screwed this up. I do it all the time. But I just don't name people or name, especially not specific members of the military.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So just to be perfectly honest to our listeners, like we are self-censoring to some degree. Like I feel like my criticism is just more, I don't know what the right word is. It's kind of more diffuse. It's more vague. It's more vague.
I got a great idea for the next podcast t-shirt. It's going to be you and me as Frodo and Sam, struggling up Mount Doom. Instead of carrying a ring, we're carrying a microphone in the Eye of Sauron.
We're trying to avoid the Eye of Sauron, right? Yeah. But that's what it is. It's like you really, most of the time, they're just not paying attention to what we do. Right. But there is always that risk that somehow they're like, hey, who are these guys? And then they pay attention.
It was a good metaphor using light, because like we say in English, right? You put a spotlight on this issue, or you put a spotlight on that. You can't do that here. It's more of a diffuse, warm glow that illuminates everything, but doesn't like focus on one guy.
Yeah. So I would say so I am limiting myself in those two respects. And then for me, kind of maybe the third way that I think we might limit ourselves is not really political, but it's legal. And this has to do with the way defamation law works in Thailand. And the big difference is generally in the West, I'm assuming Canada is the same as the US and Britain. Generally in the West, if you criticize like a company or even a private person, because there's protection for free speech, as long as you're not being malicious, as long as you're not intentionally saying something false in order to damage them, as long as you're not making up lies in order to damage someone, in general, you have legal protection. Yeah. So you don't. You might be sued, but you could defend yourself. That you're not being malicious. You didn't have like a reckless disregard for the truth, or maybe, of course, if you can show that what you were saying was actually true, that is a defense. But that's not the way Thai law works. In Thai law, even if what you're saying is actually true about a private person or a company, even if it's actually true, you can be found liable for defamation if the court determines that basically you have no business like discussing the matter. So, so there's a totally different kind of framework around speech. Like when I talk to my students about it, I say that Thailand kind of has a mind your own business culture. It doesn't have like a free speech culture. Like in a free speech culture, you're anyone can talk about anything they want. It's really not your business. It's like the bottom line is you could just talk about this company or that person or this person's marriage. Like just the culture is you're allowed to talk about whatever you want to talk about.
And that's almost used as like a point of pride. Like this is a right that is afforded to me and I'm going to use it. I'm going to take advantage of it.
That's right. And especially if you're saying, and especially if what you're saying is true, then you definitely have the right to say it publicly.
Right, sure.
But it's just Thailand's culture is different and their laws are different with respect to speech. And they have a more of a, even if you're saying something that's true, you don't necessarily have the right to say it. Again, I call it a mind your own business culture. And this has come up in many different ways in Thailand. Like we've talked a little bit about some of the human rights cases where you get NGO workers who uncover some horrible behavior of a Thai company. For example, maybe they're not even employing, but they're using like slave labor. And some NGO worker uncovers this thing and they're being like an investigative reporter and they publish a story about, X company is employing like slave labor, but then that company sues the reporter and wins, even though it's true, even though the actual allegation is true.
There's a long history of many names that a lot of the names escape me now. I'm sure our listeners can think of many off the tip of their tongue, but there's a long history of reporters and journalists who have uncovered the truth and have been run out of town. There's even happens to Thai people. There's that Thai police officer who sort of exposed the slavery and the fishing.
That's right.
The fishing industry, and he had to like escape to Australia, and he's still there. And
that's
even
right.
Just in the paper, this was years ago now, and even in the paper the other day, I read a story about how they're like, yeah, he should just come back and go through the normal channels, which.
Right. Yeah. Truth is just not an absolute defense here. But, it even shows up in ways that are not political or have nothing to do with politics. So, Greg and I think you and I have chatted about this a little bit, but even things like TripAdvisor reviews or online, sometimes you get these guests at Thai hotels and they write some harsh reviews of, a resort. A lot of times harsh reviews, they're a mix of opinion and fact. So if you didn't like a place, it's your opinion. But then a lot of times in the reviews, you make factual claims, like there were cockroaches in the sink or whatever.
Sure.
But in what happens sometimes is that Thai hotels will then sue the tourist or the expat for writing the review. And like I said, even if your facts were right, you won't necessarily win the case.
Yeah, exactly. The example I always like to give is that like if I came out and said, hey, Ed steals money from his employer, you could sue me in Thailand for defamation, and I could say, actually, I have proof. Here's video of Ed stealing money from his employer. That wouldn't matter. The court would say, well, you still made that information public. It's still damaged Ed's reputation, and therefore you're liable.
It might not matter. Again, I'm not an expert on Thai defamation law, but I think they look at your intent and whether they think you were kind of over the top or being malicious. So I think with these resorts and these hotels, and I want to be clear, this is not a common thing, but it has happened, right? It has happened, and I think what happens is these hotels get pissed off when people write kind of extra harsh reviews, which in the West, like hotels just have to put up with. It's just part of the game. And so sometimes when I read these stories, sometimes I kind of half side with the hotel because I feel like the person who wrote the review was really being a jerk, because sometimes it's the guest who's being the jerk, and they write like a super harsh review.
They've got a vendetta against
the pillow was too hard.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It happens.
Yeah. And so, but I think under Thai law, they, even if there were cockroaches in the sink, that doesn't mean you have to tell people never stay in this hotel. Like they'll look at your intent, and if they think that you were trying to damage the hotel's business, then you could be found guilty, even if factually you were correct.
Right.
So the end result is, just to clarify, when I talk on the podcast, and I think Greg is the same way, we don't name companies directly. So when I bitch and moan and go on rants about a bank or maybe even a hotel, I do self-censor in the sense that I don't name specifically the companies that screw me over.
Yeah, exactly. We're careful about that, mindful of it. We've gotten pushback from the past. A few people, not a lot, but over the years, some people have called us sellouts or wussies or something like that, because a lot of people think that if you have a public platform like we do, which we're lucky enough to have, you need to be fighting the man. So, okay, that's good for you, but we decide not to do that. So they think that you're a sellout if you're not doing that. Fight the power,
Well, I would say I fight the men like in general, but I'm not going to pick specific fights. I'm just not going to do that. But yeah, but if I think something is bad, I'll say it. Like I said, I think I'm curious what our listeners think. I feel like we criticize the Thai government a lot, and we criticize Thai companies a lot. But like I said, we just don't do it as specifically. Yeah. I definitely don't do it as specifically as I would do back home.
Right. And as a sort of an addendum, you can see on episode 37 of this season, we did an episode called Alcohol, Thailand's Favorite Boogeyman. But, for the image, we had to use 2 blurred out glasses of lemonade. It's definitely not beer, Ed. It's lemonade.
Right.
But, you can't show alcohol publicly. It's not exactly the same thing. But, I decided to self-censor that image because I knew that if someone took it the wrong way or someone got angry for some reason, it could cause problems. So that's what we did.
Yeah, the bottom line is we have to follow the law even if we don't agree with it. That's what it takes to if you want to live and stay somewhere for a long time with any type of security. Tourists should do the same thing. I mean, when you're here for a short time and you say or do something that's technically illegal, maybe the odds are in your favor that you're not going to get caught or you're going to dodge something. But it's just not smart because, tourists do get busted like spray painting something stupid on a wall just on a whim. They have gotten caught and punished for that.
Yeah. So, I mean, the worst thing that can happen, of course, they can go to jail or something like that if they do something really bad. But usually if they do something just sort of like a minor offense, they'll get deported or something, and that's the end of their vacation. Whereas, like you said, if you want to stay here long term, like us, we've got a lot invested in Thailand. That's personally, financially, etc. So there's a lot to lose.
Yeah. So yeah, for us, getting deported would be significantly worse than for a tourist.
Yeah, no doubt. And you're not a big social media guy, but I am. So I mean, I'm all over Twitter. And I can't tell you how many times I've written a particularly sassy tweet and then I've read it and read it and reread it and reread it. And I'm like, I don't need to say this. And I just delete it. Because again, the potential downsides are worse than any potential upside.
Right. Maybe kind of the last thing I want to say, just to make clear, at least in my case, because of my job, because I teach at a university and I teach politics, is that at least in my class, I get to make the argument for very broad free speech. So I feel like even though in order to follow the law, in order to have a life here in Thailand, in order to do the podcast, I must self-censor in a way that I don't agree with. Like, I don't think it's right that we have to do this. I at least do have this avenue in class where I can explain to my students who are all Thai, I can try to make the argument for why it's better to have very broad freedom of speech. So I get an opportunity to like say what I really believe, at least in terms of what I think the law should be.
So you're fighting the power from the inside.
I am, in my own special way, in my own way.
You know where you want to get a new mattress? I rip the tag off. So we're both kind of rebels.
Yes, I think you're right. We are really rebels at heart.
Yeah, well, something to think about, everyone. If you live here long term, you just like Ed said, when in Rome, do with the Romans. You got to abide by the laws. Don't have to agree with them, but you should probably follow them if you want to keep the waves from overwhelming your boat.
True that.
Yeah. All right. Hey, let's get into some love, loathe, or live with, where one of us picks a particular aspect of living in Bangkok, which we then discuss and decide if it's something that we love about living here, loathe about living here, or have come to accept as something that we just have to learn to live with no matter how we feel about it. Last time Ed asked me what I thought about localized versions of fast food, so this week it's my turn. Now, Ed, this is a pretty specific one, and I don't imagine you've put much thought into this, and it's hard to have a loathe on this, but I want to hear what you think. You know, when in most condos or airports or malls or something like that, in the rainy season when there's a big rainstorm, you see the little guards outside, and they're using that like big squeegee to squeegee off the tiles and stuff like that, you know, get the water out of there.
Okay.
What do you think when you see someone doing essentially the same thing, usually outside of a shop house or in a soy, but they're using a broom, like a whisk broom? What's your thoughts on this?
Wow, dude, this is pretty. Hold on. Let me see. Yeah, dude, I've definitely seen it. It's a little bit weird. It makes no sense. It's kind of like they are, because what you're talking about is these brooms have like long, it's like strands of, what is it? It's like straw or something, right?
Yeah, it's like you know, something out of the Red Riding Hood comic where like the stick man finds a bundle of twigs and
Yes.
ties them to a pole or something like
That's
that.
right. And so you could use one of those things as maybe like a broom for like dirt or dust, but they're really not appropriate for something like water.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they work because everyone uses them, but it just seems like it'd be so much more efficient if you had a squeegee or a flat thing, at least a flat broom. This broom is like, you know, it's got a 4-inch diameter and not even all of the pieces touch the ground.
Yeah,
So,
this is it's funny.
it's just always kind of bothered me that people.
This is hyper specific, as you said.
It is.
But it is valid and it is on point because it seems like the wrong tool for the job.
Exactly. It's like if someone was, fixing fixing an appliance or something with a butter knife. You're like, why don't you use a screwdriver? Like, it works, okay, but get a screwdriver. What are you doing? So I'm a live with but don't understand on this one.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I would have to say live with. You can't say love, and I guess you could say loathe in the sense that it's like weird and annoying. But you're right. It's not something that really causes any problems.
Yeah.
But I
guess you could love it as something like a quirky charm, but
yeah, it's not. I don't think it's too charming. But it is one of those Thai quirks that just seems odd. That doesn't make sense.
to our diseased Western minds.
That's right. I guess we'll both have to live with then.
I guess so. Yeah.
All right, so as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we'd like to say thank you to Chris Malesiak for lending us his support at the show shout-out level. Greg, what did you find out about Chris?
Well, it turns out that Chris and I have a lot in common in that he said he is a guy with a mind of a 26-year-old trapped in the body of a 48-year-old.
Oh, wow.
Which is exactly how I feel. I mean, I came to Thailand when I was 26, and I still feel about that age mentally. But I sure as hell do not feel that age physically.
Well, your taste in movies is more like a 14-year-old, but I'm just saying.
Hey, don't you get me talking about how awesome Top Gun is. It's the best movie ever made. So our friend Chris, he loves writing, he loves photography, he loves travel, he loves Thailand. Ed, that sounds like the makings of a travel website right there.
Agreed.
Yeah. So he and I shared some emails back and forth, and he says he has a job that pays really well, but he never really bought into the whole American dream thing. You know, save money all your life until you're old, and then if you can still get around okay, you can maybe enjoy yourself with the money you've saved. So he is saving all of his shekels right now, and later on this year, he's going to come to Thailand. What he's going to do is he's going to basically see what he thinks and if he can retire here.
Nice. More power to him.
I think that's great. He says, I want to immerse myself in a new culture, learn some language and traditions, meet new people. So the Thailand trip I am planning is more of a scouting mission to see if I fall in love with the country, if I could see myself living there. Everything points to yes so far. Well, except the humidity, but I will have to learn to live with that.
Well, no, this is great. I mean, I think our podcast is perfect for him because I think we really like lay out all the pros and cons. Like there's definitely plenty of cons, and I think a guy like him who's doing his research, doing a scouting mission, he should become aware of the cons. And obviously, it works for some of us, so hopefully, it'll work for him.
Yeah, I think he's doing great, and he said he's got a love of photography and stuff like that. That's why we're going to hire him as our official photographer.
Cool.
Follow us around when we walk down the street and stuff like that. Make people.
That's right. I mean, I think we can both agree. You and I are Instagram friendly.
Maybe from the back or the side, maybe not from the front, but but it's funny because I mean he's coming here to retire. which is great, but a lot of people, we've talked about this on the show before, when people come here on a vacation and they think Thailand's great, it's amazing, I'm not going to go back to the grind back where I came from, and then they move to Thailand and they find out that actually Thailand has the grind too.
Oh, sure.
It's got office workers and people stuck in traffic, and you got to deal with paperwork and taxes and stuff like that. So it's not all unicorns and rainbows, but
well, as I've said before, I think Thailand is a great place to spend money. I'm not sure this is not a great place to come, I think, to make money. It's possible, but it sounds like he's already made his money, so he might be in the right time and place to come here.
I think our friend Chris is going to have a great time. So thanks for the support, man. Let us know when you're here, and since you're going to be flush with that retirement money, and maybe you can buy us some beers.
That's right. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that sentiment. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
All right, a final thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a ton of cool perks and the warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that they're helping support the show. Find out more by clicking support on our website. And connect with us online. We're Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners and always reply to our messages.
Totally Magodally. You can also listen to each episode on YouTube. You can send us a voicemail through our website that we'll feature on the show, or even reach out to me directly on Twitter where I am BKKCraig. So thanks for listening, everyone. Take it easy, and we will see you back here next week.
Absolutely. Boom, boom.
And a 3.
Boom, boom baye. I think that was from that Muhammad Ali documentary. That was what the Africans were yelling at Muhammad Ali. Ali Boombaye, Ali Boombaye, and it means like kill him or something.
Ali Boombaye.
Yeah, Ali Boombaye.
Oh, well, I hear that on Run.
Boom, yeah. If you hear someone say like Boombaye Greg, like then
Time to get the hell out of here.
That means you want to run.